Welcome to week 5 out of 20 of building the healthiest version of me. I'm going to jump straight into this one with a couple of questions that I want to answer throughout this video. The first one being, why powerlifting? The second, how did I get into training and PTing? And then the third is one that I get a lot of new kind of beginner clients asking me, which is, what should I be doing in the gym? And the reason that I want to ask and answer those myself is because my reel this week was me trying a reformer Pilates class, and I just wanted to talk about how you find your place in the gym. So first off, I get asked a lot why I powerlift, and the main reason is that I just love to be able to push the limits and lift as heavy as possible. And the reason for that comes partly from being competitive, and being competitive with yourself is one of the best forms of competitiveness in my opinion. So there's that. And I think also where society has made out up until recently that women don't belong in strength training, I think there's a part of me that just wants to prove a point against that, and powerlifting seems like the perfect way to do that. I originally started training just following kind of like a bodybuilder's split with ex-boyfriends, and going to the gym because I felt like I had to in order to look good, and also because due to the issues that I have with my hips, I was really struggling to play competitive sports. At the time I was playing netball, and it was just causing me a lot of pain, whereas being able to train in the gym meant that I could control the movements I was doing a lot better and work around what was triggering the pain. So that was ultimately why I started going to the gym. And the more I trained, the more I enjoyed the feeling of lifting heavy. If you have ever worked towards a PB, you will know that feeling of knowing that you just managed to do that, and that is one of my favorite feelings. That is comp day summed up. Is just, do you mind? Is just, oh my god, I just did that. And it's one of the best feelings. I'll be honest, when I started powerlifting, I didn't feel the greatest support from those around me. My partner at the time was super against powerlifting, and I really had to know that I'd made the right decision for me in order to be able to stick with it and do it because I wanted to and I enjoyed it. And my first coach was super supportive of that, and he ultimately introduced me to the world of powerlifting, which I will forever be grateful for. I have since then switched coach over to Callum. I couldn't have been luckier to come across him. I did actually come across him because I followed Cleo from when she was doing May's Cleo Fit, or whatever the account was called, and when she got into powerlifting, that was what I wanted. I wanted to do what she was doing because of how it looked like it was making her feel, and because I just found everything about her so impressive and inspiring. And when I looked into who her coach was when I ultimately found Callum. So that is a little tiny quick sum up of how I got into powerlifting and how I found my coach, and I guess a little bit into how I started training myself anyway. When I originally started in the gym, as I said, I did kind of just follow along with what my partners were doing at the time. I did have one coach, Reva, who was not powerlifting specific, but just got me into strength training, and absolutely loved her as an online coach. I cried so much when I knew that it was time to leave. I think at the time I left because of my financial situation, but then it wasn't too long after that that I realized I wanted to go down the route of powerlifting. I have predominantly always had someone coaching or guiding me, and I think that's one of the reasons I came into PT as well, because I wanted to be that person for other people. I obviously know what I'm doing in terms of training, and I could of course train myself, but there are so many benefits to having a coach. I would say the biggest one for me, which I've mentioned before, is accountability. Having somebody there that you know you kind of have to report into means that you're a lot less likely to slip up. I also just don't like spending the time programming for myself. I program for a lot of other people, and I just really don't enjoy doing that for myself. I think also something that I've learned since being coached by Callum and on the DBD team is that I really like having a community of other people that are doing the same thing as me, and being able to see their journeys and their progress and chat to them about all things powerlifting. I do really value that, even if I don't spend a lot of time in the group chats. I do really value that. Now, I didn't just wake up one day and join a boyfriend going to the gym and think, great, that's for me, I'm going to be strength training into powerlifting, that's job done. It did take a bit of, not trial and error necessarily, but just kind of trying out various things to see what I liked. When I first started uni, I was doing like legs, bums and tums and like HIIT classes. I feel like classes are a really good way to get your foot in the door and find your feet and confidence a little bit. I do also think that classes, the instructors are amazing, don't get me wrong, but it is impossible for one person to check that 20 plus people are doing the same thing correctly. So I just think there's not quite enough control in a class environment. But I did start off by attempting classes. I also tried Couch to 5K during lockdown and gave running a go at that point. I really didn't enjoy it, but there was not much else that could be done. So I did try a couple of other things before I stuck with strength training, and obviously, as I mentioned a second ago, I predominantly started by playing netball and enjoying team sport before I got into gym anyway. That kind of is how I answer my clients who ask me what should I be doing in the gym. My initial question back to them is, what do you enjoy doing? And I think it's always super important to create a routine around something that you enjoy first. And once you're pretty secure in that and happy with your routine, you can start introducing things that maybe you don't enjoy quite as much, but you know will be good for you. So for me at the minute, for example, that is running. I have an amazing routine now with my powerlifting and my strength training, to the point where it is super rare for me to miss a session. And because of that, I have now introduced running, because I think it will be good for me in terms of improving my cardiovascular fitness. And I'm still doing what I love in powerlifting and will never choose a running session over a powerlifting session. But where I can, I will introduce running into my week, so that I am doing something I love and something that I think will be good for me. And I think I find that a lot with my clients. I have clients that absolutely love yoga and Pilates, but that ultimately isn't strength training, even though some people like to argue it. And if you can get a really good routine around yoga and Pilates because you enjoy that. So for example, I have a client that goes 3 times a week in the mornings, and she's managed to do that quite consistently for about a year. She knows that she needs strength training. She doesn't necessarily enjoy it, although my sessions are a lot better than her doing it by herself or in a class. So once a week, sometimes twice depending on her schedule, before her Pilates class, she'll do a strength session with me PTing her. And even though it's not her first choice, like she would much rather be in a Pilates class, she knows that she needs it and it's good for her, so she's managed to weave that in without making huge drastic changes to her week. She still only comes to the gym 3 times a week, but she now does 2 strength sessions and then 2 or 3 yoga or Pilates classes, because she enjoys it, and then she's doing something that she knows will benefit her health. And she does secretly enjoy my sessions for sure. So yeah, my initial response when someone says what should I be doing in the gym is, what do you enjoy doing? Build your routine around that, because ultimately you're only going to stick to something that you actually want to turn up and do. If you try and jump in feet first with something that you really don't enjoy but you think you should be doing, it's not going to last, it's not sustainable. And I think that's where a lot of people go wrong. And I think finally, that in itself kind of explains why I'm a PT. I want to be the hour of the week that somebody enjoys in the gym. I want predominantly to be training females to strength train and realize that it is their space too, and they can feel confident in lifting weights and hopefully enjoying moving their body in that way. And as you may not know, I originally did a law degree, and during my last year, when we were back out of lockdown, was when I seriously started strength training. And I had a couple of female friends at the gym that I was also helping a little bit here and there, and just knowing that we were building a super small community in that space was something that I really enjoyed, and I wanted to do that on a larger level. I also just love being in the gym, and I knew that if I went through a career in law, it wouldn't be something that I enjoyed spending my time doing. I like to be active, I like to be one-on-one with people and helping them reach their goals. And once I got a taste for that through PT, I knew that that was the right decision. And now my main focus is just building my knowledge in as many areas as possible, whether that is pre and postnatal, nutrition, which are the 2 courses that I'm currently working on, and that allows me to help even more wonderful women into the world of strength training. Now, the reason that I thought these questions would be good ones to answer here is just to show you that I do still try new things, and that is the only way you learn whether or not you like those things. I think for me as well, as a PT, being able to recommend those things for other people is super important, but knowing from a first-hand experience and being able to talk through all the kind of recent hypes and different ways of training is really beneficial. So that's how these questions have kind of stemmed from my reel of trying reformer Pilates. I hope that that's been a little bit interesting for you and given you an understanding of why I train how I train and why I train other people, predominantly women, in strength training as well. I think I've actually managed to say everything I want to say, hopefully nice and coherently, in a relatively short amount of time, which is great. So I hope you've enjoyed it. If you have, please give it a thumbs up. Also leave a comment if you have a spare second, and I will see you next week.